Hello, everybody, and once again, we have ourselves some cool stuff to show off. Yep, so if you hear rattling in the background, mutts are in here. Yeah. Anyways, decided to hit the couple of the thrift stores around town, and unbeknownst to me, at one of them, basically everything that you got, basically your entire purchase was roughly about half off. So roughly about half off, or, well, I guess actually, well, it is one half off. It is half off. Good Lord. It's been a long day. Anyways, excuse me. So I got some DVDs, a few Blu-rays, and a ton of CDs. Yes. Some pretty good music, including some soundtracks and some musicals, actually. Yes. I know, musicals, right? Yeah. So, anyways, gotta take a swig here. Coca-Cola. Yummy. Anyways, so let's get through the Blu-rays first, shall we? So this first one, I've heard really great things about, and I know it is a journalism-based film, of course, starring Mark Ruffalo and, of course, Batman himself, Michael Keaton. We have the 2015 film Spotlight. I have not seen this yet. I heard it's really, really good, and what can I say? I'm kind of a sucker for journalism movies, because I took journalism an awful lot when I was in like school and stuff like that, and I kind of grew up with it. So if it's a good journalism movie, then hit me in for it. All right, so then up next we have one of the funniest comedies ever made, and well, let's just say it's an upgrade. And I mean, it's such a good movie. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. If it wasn't for this movie, spoofing great, 60s spy films, then we wouldn't have, certain character trademarks in, today's, realm of, references. Yes. So we have here the first Austin Powers film, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. And it's such a great movie. It's absolutely hilarious. And, come on. I mean, it's Austin Powers in high def. Alrighty, then up next, we have something to add to my fantasy genre collection. Now, I will say this, that it kind of sucks that the casing here is, shall I say, the slipcover is kind of beat up a little bit, but, hey, I'm really not going to complain, considering the fact that I'm trying to collect a lot of films with the 3D versions of the films, and because I just thought, hey, it might just be nice to have, a 3D collection at some point, because supposedly that if you get one of those VR things for your PlayStation, apparently you can play 3D Blu-rays, or who knows, maybe one day I'll find a 3D Blu-ray player, who knows. But it's just kind of nice to have, and plus, it got really cool packaging artwork and stuff like that. But we have The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey in 3D. Yes, and you can tell it's kind of a lenticular cover right there with the leaves kind of moving around. But as you can tell, it's a little bit beat up. But you know what, though? That's fine. So hopefully I can find the others in the other two films, and of course 3D. Oh, that's interesting. So apparently the film itself in 3D, because of the amount of storage space that is on the Blu-ray, the film itself has actually been split onto 2 discs, so that's kind of interesting. So yeah, hopefully I can find the Desolation of Smog and Battle of the Five Armies in 3D. Alrighty, so up next we have the DVDs. So now this movie I've heard great things about. I've not had a chance to see it yet. course, I'm a sucker for anything World War II related, because I love that history. It's my favorite, one of my absolute favorite periods of history. So here we have Gregory Peck and MacArthur. Yeah, I've not seen this yet. I've heard either that, or maybe I have seen it, or I saw a clip of it. But from what I saw was that it looked really good. So there we go. Alrighty, then up next we have another World War II drama film. Now, everywhere I went, I found this movie in full screen. Now, I don't mind full screen as long as it was shot in full screen. I just hate the fact that stuff is zoomed in, especially if it's a widescreen TV and you know that movie was never made, for a full screen TV. But, even though it's a little bit of a love story, but one of the major scenes that actually happens in this film takes place during the evacuation of Dunkirk. And it's really, really long, long take. And from what I saw out of that, it looks really good. Of course, starring, Professor X himself, James McAvoy, and Keira Knightley. We've got Atonement. So, yeah, it looks pretty good. Then, let's dive back into the fantasy realm. So, I have never seen this before. And I know this is really hard to find, especially in the, especially even if it's in the original Snapper case, which is what this is. But this will be added to my Dungeons and Dragons collection. We have Scourge of Worlds. It's kind of hard to read that awkward text right there, but you can tell it's in the original Snapper case, and the film itself is actually a CG movie. And so when was this made? Early 2002. Yeah, so 2002 early CGI Scourge of Worlds. Yeah, interesting. So there we go. Then we dive into the realm of horror. Yeah, so now this one, I think I've seen this, but I know, or at least I'm not sure if it's somebody that I know that has this or whatnot, but I think either that or maybe I had this at one point and the disc was just, dead, would never play again. But it is basically, this is a remake, and if I get this random sticker off of here without damaging the front cover here, and of course it's not going to peel off, but anyways, so yeah, here we have in the original Snapper case, hopefully I can get the sticker off, we have 13 Ghosts, yeah, and no, I did not go to CD Warehouse, I have no idea where that is, so apparently whoever bought it for $9. Alrighty, and finally, this one's definitely a reacquisition. I had this years ago and got rid of it. Had no idea that a sequel would be made so many years later, so I have the sequel. Now I finally have the first one back into my collection. Such a great horror film. Of course, it was made right around the time when, Saw was around, and it has that kind of very gritty and grimy, sick, gross-looking style. I'm, of course, talking about, the first ever film produced by WWE Films. We have See No Evil, starring Kane as the character of Jacob Goodnight. Yeah, this movie was really good, and, it's nasty, you know what I mean? It's your typical, it's your, your newer kind of horror film, but it's kind of interesting that, Glenn Jacobs, who is Kane's real name, by the way, he actually stayed in the character of Kane the entire time, even during, when they weren't shooting the film. So, because there's actually a small behind the scenes where he starts freaking out the actresses a little bit. So, alrighty, so now let's get through the CDs. Yeah, that's something we don't really talk about here that much. And I found a huge pile of great stuff. First off, the first top three are the musicals, so we'll get those out of the way. So first up, now, I absolutely love, this musical. I've always wanted to see it live on Broadway, but it's, quite frankly, I've only seen one Broadway show, and, it's kind of hard to go see it, really, because, well, what can we say? It's just such a good Broadway, and of course, they made the film version of it, and unbeknownst to me, that the music actually is a little bit different in the film than the original Broadway play. Yeah, so what am I talking about? I'm, of course, talking about the original Broadway of Les Miserables. Yeah, this is so good, though. I love this this thing. It's so good. Absolutely great music. Great music. And so up next, this one I have never seen. I've always heard great things about it. And as far as I know, this is the only one out of these three Broadway musicals, I think, that has not had a film adaptation yet. I hope one day that Hollywood decides to do it. But I heard great things about this. I'm, of course, talking about, when did this originally get released? In 1988. Yeah. So here we have Miss Saigon. Yeah. Never heard of it, but all I know is that the funny thing is that this was presented, of course, by Cameron McIntosh, who is a legendary producer in the realm of musicals. Not only did he present Les Miserables, but he also presented the next one, which is probably his most famous one, at least in my opinion. And what can we say? I love this. This is my absolute favorite Broadway show of all time. Now, I was ecstatic when I went to go see it, and unbeknownst to me at the time, one of the people that was working there said that they are actually currently shooting the film version. I'm like, they're making a movie out of it? They're like, yeah. I'm like, sweet. When does it come out? In about 6 months. I'm like, how did I not know about this? And, well, the movie came out, and they added a few scenes to the story, which was kind of interesting, which they have currently, well, sadly, the Broadway's no longer around, but they never added the scenes that were shot for the film into the Broadway, which is kind of interesting. But of course, I'm talking about my absolute favorite musical of all time, Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera. This is so good. Of course, sung greatly by, of course, Michael Crawford, who of course plays the Phantom. And, of course, Sarah Brightman as the character of Christine. Alrighty, so let's move on here. So, alright, so we've got quite a bunch of random stuff here. We got some soundtracks, we got some various artists, and so, yeah, we got loads of great stuff to go through. So, alright, so first up, we have a soundtrack here. Of course, this was the biggest movie of all time at the time of its release. I think it's currently the biggest R-rated film of all time as far as box office goes. But, of course, it was controversial, obviously, because you're dealing with the subject matter. But the score to that film is just absolutely amazing. Of course, done by John Debney. We have the original soundtrack for The Passion of the Christ. Yeah, great soundtrack. Especially because the one track that really kind of that stood out to me, of course, is the final track entitled Resurrection. But also the one before it is called Jesus is Carried Down. Well, basically, literally, like the last 5 tracks, basically all kind of play one right after the others. So it's like this, almost like this 15-minute suite, which is a great thing. And of course, Resurrection was played live on the Conan O'Brien show back in the day when this soundtrack came out. And that's very rare for that to happen, especially for soundtracks. So we have another soundtrack. This time we have a score. One of my favorite films. I mean, it's overall, it's not a bad film. I mean, it's a great comedy. It's a great action comedy. Of course, it has Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson. We have the original soundtrack to Shanghai Noon, composed by Randy Edelman, who's done loads of great soundtracks. Of course, one of my favorites that he did was Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. Alrighty, so then up next, let's get into, let's see here. Well, we'll just go from up top. So up next, we have an artist soundtrack, or not soundtrack, but an artist album. Of course, I remember listening to this band when I was a kid, kind of more of like in the middle school era or whatever, high school. Of course, we have Prodigy, The Fat of the Land. Of course, features the hit song Minefields, and of course Smack My Up. You know what that is. Breathe, and a whole bunch of other great tracks. So yeah, there we go. If you're into kind of funk, kind of like hip, not really hip hop, but kind of like techno-ish, kind of type of music a little bit. So up next we have something to add to the metal section. Yeah. So here we have a band which I've only owned their first album. I don't know why. But of course the first album was entitled Infest. Of course that has several great songs on it. But so here we have from Papa Roach, we have The Connection, which is their 2012 album. So yeah, there we go. Never heard of this. Never heard of any of the music from this particular album, but give it a go. Alrighty, so let's hear up next. We got some more soundtracks. Yeah, so what can I say? I absolutely love this movie, and I swear there are just certain points in this movie where Alec Guinness literally looks just like Ewan McGregor in certain lighting scenes for this particular movie. If they were ever to remake it, which I hope that they never do, but if they ever do cast for this, if they ever do a remake, please cast Ewan McGregor in the young Alec Guinness role for this movie. I'm, of course, talking about, from Maurice Jarre, my second favorite score out of his, we have Dr. Zhivago, the 30th anniversary edition, which is absolutely loaded with songs. Because actually I found at Goodwill, they had the vinyl album on LP, and there was only like 11 songs back then. But for the 30th anniversary edition, times change, technology, advances. We go from 11 songs all the way up to 45. So yeah, that's a lot of tracks to get through. All in one disc, by the way. Alright, so then up next we have, it's the soundtrack from a movie that's, it's kind of a hit and miss. It's alright. Yeah. But what can we say? But then again, it's got several great tracks on it. Well, one including by a song by Sting. Of course, the film is composed by a very, very underrated film composer, in my opinion. Graham Revell. We have the soundtrack to Red Planet. Yeah, of course, starring Val Kilmer. Let's see what else we got next. We're gonna get into some various artists for a little bit. Yeah. So let's see here. What all do we have here? Excuse me. So actually, you know what? I think I need to take another swig here real quick. Hang on, just a second. Jeez. The coke on my nose. Not literally, but anyways. So one of my favorite bands I loved listening to when I was in middle school. Of course, I used to listen to rock and metal station all the time when I was a kid. I've always grown up on rock and roll. I love rock and roll. That'll never change. But kind of glad that I finally have some of these albums. And what can I say? It's this band was awesome. I'm of course talking about we have the band. We have Shinedown with the album of The Sound of Madness, which of course the most known track on here is Second Chance. And so yeah, great album, by the way. Then I also managed to find another one from them, which I do not know any of the tracks on this one, unless the second track is like their version of the David Bowie song, because it's titled Heroes. But here we have Shinedown's Us and Them. Let's see here. What do we got next? Now this album, this is one of my favorites. I have absolutely loved this guy since I was a kid. Shall I say it was all because of my dad, who kind of got me hooked on the classic rock and roll, classic rock, including Clearwater, Creedence Revival, Earth, Wind and Fire, great stuff that he grew up on. Of course, it passes down a generation. But this one is one of my favorite albums of all time. Of course, whenever I got to see him live, only once when I was a kid. Of course, I was the only kid, probably I was about maybe 3 or 4 years old, who basically knew the entire lyrics at the time to Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. That should give you a clue as to what album or the artist is I'm talking about. But the album that I have here is Elton John's Sleeping with the Past. I absolutely love this song. Has great several favorite songs of mine we have, which includes Whispers, Club at the End of the Street, Sacrifice, Healing Hands, great album. Absolutely great album. One of his best, I think. Alrighty, then up next we have let's see here. Yeah, we have the next 3 albums. They're all done by the same band. And so, shall I say, if it was not for Baby Driver, I would have never heard of this band. And ever since I listened to the soundtrack to Baby Driver, I've been trying to hunt down some of their albums from this, and I finally found 3 of them. Now I don't know if this is what is it? I don't know if it's the same thing, but anyways. So here we have, of course, the song that I'm referring to off of the Baby Driver soundtrack is the very first one, entitled Bell Bottoms by the John Spencer Blues Explosion. And I managed to find a few albums of theirs. I found Acme. Yeah, now I've never heard of any of their stuff before, so let's hope it's good. Luckily, if I didn't like it, then hey, I'm not going to lose out on anything, but I'm sure it's great. Okay, and then up next we have, I want to say this is probably a re-release of theirs, because it kind of reminds me a little bit of what Linkin Park did. But so here we have from the John Spencer Blues Explosion, we have Extra Acme. Now I want to say that this probably has additional songs that they probably either added onto or whatnot. Because what I'm seeing is, looks like they added 6 new songs on here. So yeah, like maybe they re-released the album again while they were working on another album. Because Linkin Park did that while they were in between their first album, Hybrid Theory, and while they were working on their second album, Meteora, they released Reanimation. Alright, and then the last album that I found out of theirs, I found, let's see here, what is the name of it? It is Now I Got Worry, I believe that's what the name of the album. And I was kind of hoping that I would have stumbled across the Bell Bottom song on one of the albums, but I guess not. I'll have to find out what album that is from. If you do know, leave a comment down below. That way I can hunt it down. Okay, let's see here. Then up next, what do we have here? We have a couple more of artists' albums here. We're going to go back to Shinedown for a brief minute because I forgot that I had gotten a third album out of theirs. And what is the title of it? It is hard to see. Okay, so here we have Shinedown's Amaryllis, I believe is how you pronounce that, which I've not actually listened to any of this album at all because I don't recognize any of the songs. So there we go. And then, well, let's just say, of course, I remember when this was getting, basically advertised left and right. Way back in the day when I used to watch wrestling constantly. Of course, we had Chris Jericho. He was saying that he was going to do a band. We're like, oh, okay. And sure enough, well, what can we say? I think this is their first album, I think. So here we have Chris Jericho's band. We have Fozzy with the album Happenstance. Now, I'm sure there'll probably be some people that'll write down below saying that, oh, Fozzy sucks and Chris Jericho sucks or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Like, I just like the fact that it's metal, okay? And that it kind of reminds me a lot, it gives me a lot of the later Black Sabbath vibes at the mixed with like a little bit of Ozzy, but also a lot of the Ronnie Dio years in there as well. Alrighty, so let's end things off here with some soundtracks. So this one, I was surprised I found this. I love this series of movies. I'm kind of glad I finally have the first soundtrack. Now, if I can finally hunt down the other two, that'd be awesome. But yeah. But what can we say though? The soundtrack to this is awesome. It kicks ass. And what can we say? He said he was back, and he was thinking that he was back. Of course, I'm talking about the soundtrack to none other than John Wick. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's the first John Wick album. It's great. It's a great soundtrack. I mean, it really is. And there actually is there is a track in here that I know is written by Le Castlevania. I can't remember what the song is, but of course the score, by Tyler Bates, who's no stranger to making badass soundtracks. Of course, the second track is even, the score is even better. And then, well, let's go back to a way before that. This was very late in this composer's career, but also one of the best soundtracks of all time. One of the best scores to, obviously, to one of the best movies that was ever made, because nobody thought it would do very well. Nobody thought a 3-hour Buffalo movie would win any Oscars. Boy, were they wrong. Of course, I'm talking about John Barry's excellent score to Dances with Wolves. Of course, the John Dunbar theme being played over and over and over again. It's a great, great piece of music. And finally, now I've been on the hunt for this thing forever. I have never found it until literally just today. Easily one of my favorite scores of all time. And also on top of that, it's, I think it's released by a label I don't think is hardly around anymore. Or, well, I think they may be. Let me see here. Was it John Wick? Yeah, I mean, they're still around, but God, I really wish that the complete score of this movie would come out. And I know that let's just say, it's just one of the best scores ever, period. Of course, once again, he's very underrated. Of course, we have the score to Graham Revell's The Crow. This score is amazing. One of the best scores ever written to one of the best movies ever made. And, of course, that movie was very independent, and nobody thought it was going to do very well until, of course, tragedy struck on the set. And next thing you know, word of mouth came out that this movie's going to be something, and lo and behold, it was. Then eventually it went on to make 3 sequels, which didn't do very well, and an apparent remake, which looks awful, by the way. But we'll see. But yeah, the original Crow soundtrack is amazing. Hopefully one day, I'm sure there's probably a complete score released by now. If there hasn't been, you know, I mean, come on. I mean, how could you go wrong? So, oh man, that was a lot of stuff. I mean, now granted, all that stuff that I just showed you, literally all that, $5. I'm not kidding. All those movies, all these CDs, all that, all combined together, $5 for everything. That you can't beat. That's a steal, folks. Let me tell you that. Alrighty, well, with that, you guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification down below. If you guys would like me to review, you know, any of the soundtracks or any of the musics or movies or whatever, just comment down below. And so, yeah, with that, you guys, take care, and I'll see you next time.